Good evening. Glad you're here. This is the final night of our summer series. Our guys have done such a wonderful job, a fine job, delivering lessons centered around the idea of I want to know more about. And tonight, Brandon Key's going to speak. He wants to know more about marriage and family. So we're looking forward to hearing Brandon tonight. Tamella's going to lead us in a prayer, and then we'll turn it over to Brandon.
Father in heaven, we are blessed for this day that you've given us, and also be able to hear what we word. Thank you also for speaking for this evening, and also for the time that's taken to make preparation to deliver all that things about to deliver. And we pray that these things may be used in our lives, grow better, and also help others and help each other in all the things that we will be discussing. We thank you also for the word that you've given us, that we may be able to look into it and live lives that are pleasing to you. That's my prayer.
Test, is it working? All right. Marriage and family. Hold on, I gotta adjust. Y'all are too close. Get back where I can see. When writing this lesson, I have rewritten it numerous times, some for which other people have touched on similar things, and others I've changed it just because of how I wanted to present it. So, speaking to a group of people, I have multiple experience levels here, age groups. So, I'm saying that to say, how do I want to approach this subject? How do I want to start and speak to you about marriage and family? I don't want to do it in a way that we've heard over and over. Okay? So I'm going to relate the fire department to marriage and family. You're going to hear a story and a comparison. You're going to learn a little bit about the fire department, and then we'll touch on it. And I've got some key words that we're going to look at. Okay. First off, January 12th, 2004 was the day I started Birmingham Fire and Rescue Service, and the fire department gave me structure in my life that I did not have, that I had lost due to some events. So it got me back on track. And over the years, I've realized that the fire department is structured very similar to a family. So the world actually models itself after what God tells us to do, and they don't even realize it. There's a call that I have mentioned before in a sermon I did. I've spoke on it one time. I've told my parents about it, and very few people at work. The only time I used it in a sermon, I ended up breaking down crying. So we'll try not to do that tonight. It's a very touching story to me. I'm going to keep out the gruesome details. If anybody wants to know the gruesome details, come up to me after the service and we can talk. After I got out of recruit school, somewhere in my first year, I got sent to Station 6, which is on the north side downtown in Birmingham. I'm a rookie firefighter. I'm young. I'm eager. I'm nervous. Tone goes off for a wreck on the interstate. We all run and jump on the engine. Officer sits, if you've ever seen a fire truck, which most of you have, we call riding the seat whoever's in the passenger seat. That's where your officer, the person in charge, that's where they sit. Obviously, the driver's driving the truck. Used to be referred to as apparatus operator. Now we call them sergeants because somebody liked the way that sounds better. And then you have the firefighters on the back. We're riding on the truck, and as we're getting close, I'm getting nervous. So there's 4 of us on there, and I'm the low man. I'm the rookie. When we pull up on scene, all I see is the bottom of the vehicle. The vehicle's on its side. They position the apparatus on the interstate. The brake pops. I jump off. I run around and grab my medic bag, and I run to the only patient I see. There's a man laying on the ground on the interstate. I had to move flesh off of his eyes so I could see him and start working on him and see what condition he was in. I don't really know what was going on around me. I had tunnel vision. I was focused on that patient. A couple other guys came over there. I know the chief showed up. I'm working on this patient. We bandage him, we load him up, get him in the back of the rescue unit, goes to the hospital. That's the perspective I saw, and that's all I knew at the time as a fresh rookie. So, we're going to stop the story right there for now. Now, back to the structure of a fire department. The officer and the driver are the key to a fire crew. Okay? The officer has to know policies, procedures, has to be thinking ahead. The reason I stepped back when I started speaking is I can't see you. You're out of my scope. I've got to be able to see everything, know who I'm talking to, and know what's going on. That's what the officer does on scene in very short, making it easy. The driver, there's a lot more that goes into driving a fire truck than just driving a car. You've got things to think about. What time of day is it? Is the school in or out? Where are we going? What are the vehicles? Do I know the house? What's the speed limit? Legally, I can only go 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, but we don't always hold to that. Depends on the call, depends on the time of day. So your 2 most important people when the call starts is the officer and the driver. In station life, the officer and the driver set the tone for the crew. If those 2 individuals do not get along, it's not going to be fun. They're going to be arguing all the time. They're going to be out to get each other. And it's going to be miserable. Nobody on the back, no firefighters are going to learn anything if they can't get along. If the crew does not like the officer, but he's a good officer and the driver respects him, the crew will follow the driver and the driver will respect the officer, and it keeps everybody in line because the driver has a different relationship with the crew than the officer does. It is more of a friendly relationship because they're closer to the same level. The driver is considered to be a lead worker. So that relationship is extremely important in the fire service, which is very similar to marriage. Because if the mother and the father do not have a good relationship, then there is no family. If they're arguing constantly, it's not going to work out good. So, how do you have a good relationship in a marriage? And first, I'm going to speak to the young people. Y'all listen up. I can speak to this from experience and what I've seen. When you start looking for a spouse, you need to look in the church. It's not a sin to marry somebody who's not a Christian, but it's going to cause you issues down the road. Yes, you could get married and you might convert the person. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. It's much better idea if there's somebody you like to convert them before you ever get to that point. And just research that one for yourselves, and I'm going to leave it right there. So for marriage, there's 4 points I want to look at on how we can have a good marriage. Let's look at Hebrews 13, verse 4. Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous. Honor and respect. Do the mother and father honor each other and respect each other? Do you have that relationship? Do you have that commitment to each other? Let me get my thoughts together. If the mother and father do not respect each other, they're not out to please each other, they're not there for each other, then the marriage is going to have issues. You have to care about your spouse's feelings. You have to care about each other. And Proverbs 18:22 says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." So favor, which means approval and support. A husband and wife have to support each other. My wife, bless her soul, is my rock and my support. There's things I will speak to my wife about that I won't talk to anybody else. There's things that she is always there for me. She takes care of me. When, as most of you know, sometimes, or I've talked about, I'll have anxiety issues because of my job. My wife is always there. She's always supported me. And I try to do the same for her. But it's difficult because men and women are different. We see things different. We take things different. We act different. So we have to support each other. And men, I don't know about you, but there's many times that the best thing I can do is hush my mouth and just be there and hold her. Because I can't understand everything she's trying to say or that she's feeling, because I view things differently. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there is a difference between a man and a woman, which the world does not want to admit, especially in this political environment. Marriage is between a man and a woman. There are only two sexes in this world. You have male and female. All these hundreds of other sexes and identities and things like that do not exist. It is a lie. Genesis 2, verse 24. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. To hold fast means to secure. In a marriage, you have to feel secure with each other. You have to feel safe with each other. So, if you respect each other, you support each other, you have that security, knowing that that person is going to be there for you no matter what happens. And the most important is love. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 7. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. How many times do we come home from a rough shift or a long day at work and we take it out on our spouse? How many times do you have to catch yourself? Is that fair to the spouse? Is that fair for the children? Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. So a marriage based on love, security, support, respect can be successful. And that is a necessity to have a successful family. A fire officer is a lot like a father. And I'm going to do a public service announcement here. I'm not saying that a female cannot be an officer. I'm not saying that a male won't be the driver, a female driver on the fire department. The male, female doesn't matter. I'm just making a relation for this subject. So, a fire officer has a responsibility. The fire officer has to know policies and procedures, the standard operating procedures. Has to do all the paperwork, has to train the crew, has to perform on scene in difficult situations, make difficult choices, and has to protect the crew, the driver. Well, let me back up. So, the officer being a leader, there's a difference between being a leader and a boss. A boss sits back and tells somebody what to do. A leader gets in the front and gets dirty and shows them what to do and teaches them hands-on how to do it. How do we do it as a father? Are we telling our family and our children to do one thing and doing another? Or are we in the grind with them? How are we doing? How can a father do what he is supposed to do? As I said before, men see things differently and act differently than females do. Let's look at Psalms 103:13. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him. Compassion. Compassion means to be sympathetic. So how can a man be sympathetic to the family? Does that mean he's always not fussing at the children, everything's okay, hugging them? Yes. But compassion has many different forms. A man is going to be firm, supportive, and take care of his family, which is also a form of compassion. How can we be more compassionate as men? How can we show that compassion? Anybody? No ideas? Spend time with them, show them that you care. What else can we do? Provide. How many times have you heard somebody say, my dad's never there, he's always at work, but they're outside playing, riding their new bike. They've got everything they need. They've got clothes. Do you think the father wants to be working that much? Not saying women don't work. That's not what I'm talking about. So that's not where I'm going. But does a father not show compassion by providing the home and being there for the family? Going to work? Let's look at Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Discipline. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Discipline, to obey rules and behavior. To have good behavior. The first thing a man has to do is discipline himself, control himself, to be a good father and to be a good husband. You can't go hang out with your buddies. You can't do every little thing you want to do. We have to be mature and keep ourselves in line. Also, we have to discipline our children. Proverbs 4, verses 11 through 12. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the paths of uprightness. When you walk, your step will not be hampered, and if you run, you will not stumble. Wisdom. Knowledge plus experience plus good judgment is wisdom. That is one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn as a man, is to quit talking, start listening and learning. So, how can we gain more wisdom? Study and prayer. What else can we do? Experience. Number one, listen. Yes. What about, who do you go to if you have questions? As a parent, who would you go to if you had the questions? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Because they've already been there. They've already been through it and already done it, right? Right. So, for a father, you've got to have compassion and be sympathetic to the needs of the family. Has to take care of the family, protect the family, and be that support. Has to be disciplined. Has to discipline himself, first of all. I'm not saying the man disciplines the wife. We do not do that. No, no, no. But we do discipline the children. And we have to have wisdom. We have to sit back, calm ourselves down, think about what's going on, judge it through past experience, and if we don't know, then we need to ask somebody. And the good thing about a congregation like this, the family we have, if your parents are gone, your grandparents are gone, there's plenty of experienced people here that we can go to and ask. And that's a good feeling and an easing feeling. So the mother and wife. The driver on the fire department has a different relationship with the firefighters than the officer does, as I mentioned before. It's a more relaxed relationship. They joke around more, they play more, the jobs are more similar. Whereas the officer teaches policies, procedures, trains with the whole crew, the driver concentrates more on certain tasks. How to use a tool, how do we load the hose, how do you pump, how do you get the water, how do you do the calculations, things like that. They have a different relationship with them. They can relate with them more because as an officer you're held to a different standard. You have different objectives. So a mother should have wisdom and kindness. Look at Proverbs 31:26. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. To be kind is to be generous and considerate. How many of us as kids have gone to our mom when we've been in trouble and said, "Don't let Dad be mean to me. Don't tell Dad." Why? Because the mother has that special relationship with a child that nobody else can. The father can't have that level of intimacy with a child that the mother can. I don't know how to put it all into words. Ladies, you go ahead. How do the mothers show their kindness? How do they get through? How do they build that relationship with their children? On some occasions, yes. Oh, but you can't say that. You're going to upset somebody. Natural, because there's a difference between male and female, correct? They're naturally going to have that different relationship. They're going to connect on a different level with the children. So when we tell the kids to suck it up, toughen up, and go, is that not compassion coming from a man? Because if a man didn't care, would he tell you to suck it up and keep going, or would he ignore you? My father, he's here tonight because he's a glutton for punishment. My father was a section boss in the coal mines. Do you think when I skint my knee riding my bike, my dad said, "Are you okay? Are you going to be all right?" No. He told me to quit crying and get up and walk it off. I could have busted my head open riding a four-wheeler. He'd tell me to walk it off. Why? Because that was the push I needed from my dad. Now, what would my mother do? "Come here, honey." Let's look at Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 11. An excellent wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. Trust. A mother and a wife should be deserving of trust. So should the men. Ask yourselves, are you trustworthy? Can your family trust in you? When all else fails and they feel like the world's about to end, can they come to you? How can I put this? An excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. I lived that one. Let me tell you, I lived that one. And then I finally found one who could put up with me. It was good to me. If you find a good woman or you find a good man, you better hold on to them. You better keep them around. And children will see that. They will see that trust, and they'll see that love, and they'll see what's going on between their parents, and they'll know what's right and what's wrong. Do children not trust their mother to always be there? When something goes wrong, who do they run to first most of the time? Mama. Because Mama fixes things. Mama gives better hugs and makes all the boo-boos go away. It's a different relationship. Proverbs 31, verse 31. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So a mother with her wisdom and kindness and being trustworthy is honorable, deserving of admiration and respect from the children and from the father. How can we show wife and mother admiration and respect? How have we failed to do that? Anybody? I know I have, and I haven't meant to. Failure to help her out when I should, failure to hush my mouth and listen and hold her and let her cry instead of trying to talk her through it like I would another man. There's certain things I can't do. So how has anybody else failed at that? Or am I the only terrible person? I'm the only one? All right, lesson's over. Yeah. So,
By not holding them up, too. Show them, you love them. You stand behind them.
support. Show them support. Sometimes in order to show support, we have to admit we don't understand everything the female's going through. We don't understand what's going through their minds, and we have to hush and be there. There's plenty of times I tell my wife, if it comes to it, you tell me to hush up and just tell me to hold you. And that's what I'll do. Anybody else? How can we show more love and respect for our wives? Talking about Southern principles and being a gentleman. Can't talk about that today anymore, in this world anymore either. Get in trouble for that. I'm waiting on somebody to say wash the dishes and the clothes. Nobody's bringing it up. I really want to get some people's ideas and talking of how we can be more respectful. Clean the house. How many people have spouses who work? My wife does. Do we think about what our wives and our mothers want and need in comparison to what men think they want and need and what men think we want and need? I want and needed a little tractor. I got a little tractor. And now I'm getting hints that it's time for Mama to get something. All right, we'll move on. Children. And we basically, yes, I'm looking at you, Emma. Teenagers. I'm going to give you 3 points. It might not be what you're expecting, but the first one, John 5, verse 20 through 21. And we know that the Son of God has come and has given us understanding so that we may know him who is true, and we are in him who is true, in his Son Jesus Christ. He is the true God and eternal life. Little children, keep yourselves from idols. There's a lot of peer pressure. Y'all are aware of this. Y'all are older and in school. People run their mouths and give you a hard time. It's very important to stay focused on the gospel and Jesus and not focused on sports heroes, cool people in school, rich people who are sinners. We have to keep idols in their proper place and maintain our focus, okay? Titus chapter 2, verses 11 through 12. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age. Self-control. Man, that's a tough one for the adults. But it is so important for y'all to have self-control, because you're going to have major temptations. And you're going to think your parents know nothing about it. Your temptations might be slightly different, but we've been there and we've been through it. You need to have a support group, friends, Christians, people in the congregation, that when you have those temptations, call somebody and talk to them. Self-control is so important. Man, if I could go back and change some things. Anybody have any suggestions on how to build self-control? Yeah. Yeah, it feels good and it's fun right now, but what's going to happen in the future? Right? So, David and Bathsheba, what happened to David's family because of that one moment? And he wished he could go back and change everything. I don't have time to go into that story. You should know it. Go back and study it again. But that one short moment of fun is not worth what's going to come in the future. And I'm running out of time. God will forgive us when we make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have repercussions or long-term effects from a mistake that you make. So anything you do now that's wrong, God can forgive you, but you might still be paying for it down the road. And I don't have time to go into that further, but just something to think about. Be patient. Colossians 3:12. Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Be patient with your parents. They're going to tell you things that you're not going to want to hear. They're going to not let you do things that you want to do. You're not going to understand it. You're not going to know why, because you're looking here, like I was as a rookie. You're not looking here. Your parents have seen it, have been there and experienced it. So when you start getting mad, take a little time out and go calm down, because you don't understand what's coming. I'm not saying you're ignorant. I'm not saying you don't have feelings, you don't know what's going on. I'm saying you're not going to see the big picture. So when your parents are correcting you, you have to have self-control. Stop and think. Never respond when you're angry. It's the worst thing you can do. Calm down. Think about it. Come back a couple days later. If you're mad at them, just be quiet. Do what they say. A couple days later, hey, Mom, Dad, I don't understand why you did that. Tell me why you did that. Because they have the experience and they have the knowledge, so they have the wisdom. We might only have knowledge. I'm 42 and I'm still learning things. And things I know now, I wish I could go back and slap my 15-year-old self. I don't know a lot of people would like to do that. My dad's laughing right now. Running out of time. Back to the story. When we're on the interstate, when the patient was taken away, I went and put my bag back on the truck. I look around. I'm starting to see things I hadn't seen before. My chief comes up to me and says, go with this officer. He's got to take a picture of the mother. What mother? I never saw a mother. I saw a forerunner laying on its side, and I saw a guy. About 6 feet away, I saw contents from the vehicle, clothes, purses, things like that. The mother was over there. Had no idea the mother was there. I had to go lift the sheet so the officer could take a picture of the dead mother. I also didn't notice, and I'm cutting out a lot here, that there were pieces of mother other places. After that, I'm told the children are okay. Oh, what children? See, on the other side of the forerunner were 2 kids sitting on the interstate crying and scratched up. I had no idea. All I saw was the immediate guy laying on the ground. I didn't see everything else. My officer saw it. Because as we were pulling up, he was looking and saw everything that was going on. Gave the report, set up the scene. Driver saw it. Positioned the apparatus to close down the road and take care of it. But the children on the back of the engine didn't see it, because we're gung-ho. We're ready to go. All we know is put water on the fire, go to the patient. That's all we know. But they knew. And then I was told what happened. Mother was driving the forerunner. Mommy and Daddy were having an argument. Daddy wanted to hit Mama and hit her arm. Steering wheel turned, forerunner rolled over. Mama was thrown out, rolled over by the vehicle and thrown on the side of the road. Dad whose skin I had to pull back up over his head, was laying in the middle of the road. And those two kids did not have on car seats, or seat belts, didn't have car seats, were thrown out. If that forerunner had rolled over one more time, it would have killed those kids. I can still see every bit of that scene in my head. It woke me up for a long time because that was the first time on the fire department I saw something that gruesome. And my wonderful crew I was with that day, we went back and had spaghetti for lunch. And they did that to toughen me up. It was their form of compassion. Because we had 20 more hours on our shift and couldn't break down. If that mother and father, I don't know who they were. I believe he died. We know the mother's dead. So those kids are growing up without parents because the father did not raise the family in the church like he should, obviously, or he wouldn't be trying to hit his wife. Didn't have compassion. Didn't have discipline, obviously. And now the kids have nothing. So what can we do to better our families and ourselves? Thank you.